clear the counter here if you want me to. We can sit here, we can chat. We can chat here, we can put a chair here, we can put a chair there.
It's not often we get to feature Corollas. You know why?
Why?
How many have you built?
I think this is one of very few, eh?
I mean, it's got a set of wheels, it's got a Cressida lip, tinted windows. No, we knew it's got interior and a small system.
Okay. Small is an understatement.
Okay.
It's a fairly big system. 90% of the components, obviously being a RF dealer, all of them are Rockford Fastgate. The only challenge we had is at the time when we were doing the system, RF didn't have the 15s that the client wanted available. Okay. So we opted for another choice, which was Kicker, the L7 range. But I mean, otherwise, the entire inside's been done over. If we look at the front, we've got the Macman alternator. There's multiple batteries. There is the charger that's built into the boot. In total, there is 6 8-inch mid-range drivers. That's the Punch Pro range, and 6 Punch Pro tweeters also in the 4-inch.
So on the vocal side, I think stupid loud.
Oh, it's ridiculously loud. Ridiculous. Well, the client wanted something that was deafening.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's nothing louder than the Punch Pros in the Punch Pro.
So it's more like a open the doors and party kind of.
That's pretty much what it is. And then obviously each set of 8s and tweeters has its own amplifier. And then obviously you've got 115 firing into the vehicle, and then there's another 215s in the boot of the vehicle.
So how does that work out like? 115 in, 2 out?
Well, the challenge was that it's going to be an everyday vehicle. So the client didn't want to play the entire system every day with everything functional. So we've got switches that we fitted in. And
so you can switch one woofer
that's
on or
good.
two
You can
woofers.
play one woofer if
That's
you like.
quite cool.
You can play 2 woofers if you like. You can play all 3. It's exactly the same thing with the vocals. You can do one set of speakers up front, one set of speakers at the back, or you could pretty much play everything if you wanted to, you know.
Yeah. So there's one set of 8-inch mids and tweeters in the front,
Right.
and 2 pairs at the rear, and then the one woofer in between, and then another 2 in the boot.
That's correct.
That's a lot of
A lot of
equipment.
equipment, yes.
It's a damn lot of equipment.
Well, the challenge was this client came in for a fairly, I'd say, a medium-sized system. And the longer the vehicle stood, I don't know what had transpired, but he'd obviously done some research, and then he wanted to go bigger and bigger.
Because I remember looking at this car when I dropped off the Alti, and there's 2 15s behind the seat, and
That's
now
correct.
there's 3.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember, with it being behind the seat, I didn't get enough intensity on the inside of the vehicle.
Okay.
So we changed the dynamics of it. What we then did was we rebuilt the enclosure behind, where the back seat is.
Yeah.
We made one woofer fire forward. So for everyday playing, I mean, he can just play the one woofer firing into the vehicle.
More than enough.
That's correct. Yeah. And then obviously put the 2 15s in the boot. It loads a lot better because it's a sedan.
And is it a ported or sealed?
Sealed application. All 3 woofers are sealed application woofers.
Okay.
Obviously, you know the size of boot on this vehicle. They generally not too big. These woofers,
the boot is big enough to put 2 in a vented enclosure.
not at all, not at all. And because of the fact that he wanted tight, responsive bass.
Let's go from the front. Let's check what's happening here.
The doors are custom. The reason why the front is protruding like that is obviously we had to get the standard door to facilitate an 8-inch. The only
Those
way to
8s
do
are
that,
big, eh?
the magnets are fairly big.
And these tweeters as well. I mean, the
Exactly
tweeters are
the
like
same
4-inch speakers.
100%.
And it's just tweeters.
100%. So as a result of that, we had to bolt the door a bit forward, but also bearing in mind that the seat was fairly close.
Okay.
So aesthetically, we had to make sure that we fulfill both the criteria, where it aesthetically looks good, but it's also functional as well, you understand?
The functional is important
100%.
because
Can I stop you there? Let me just take it off. Yeah, please.
I thought you could
Take it off. And maybe fix your beanie.
fix it back. You look like a scholar.
You look like a ruffian. You want to fucking here to hijack the motherfucker.
Yeah, you're not here to hijack me. We're here to... As far as the door panel is concerned, we went with a press grille effect because My client wanted something that is protected because he's going to use the vehicle fairly often.
I see you redid the seats as well. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, we tried to retain the diamond theme throughout the vehicle. Client liked the diamond theme, so you'll see that whilst we built the door panels with a diamond on it, we did exactly the same with the centers of the seats. As you can see, it's only a two-seating vehicle, you understand?
Yeah.
We've removed that with the back seats. The client was very particular about putting in back seats of the vehicle. He just wanted driver passenger.
So he doesn't want friends.
But pretty much. In the back, as you
Gee,
can
golly gosh, there's a lot of stuff happening there.
All right, so as you can see, you got the 115 in the back.
With a lot of speakers.
With a lot
It's
of
a lot of speakers.
100%. So what we've pretty much done is we've backlit every single speaker and tweeter. We've backlit the Rockford logos on the back doors, the speakers in the front doors, as well as the amplifiers. In the boot area as well, you'll find that the amplifier together with the woofers also have some lighting. Not as much as the behind the seat, but in the boot there's also lighting.
Subtle lighting.
Subtle lighting.
I see you managed to squeeze a capacitor in there.
Right, the 10 farad was also an afterthought. The client initially didn't want the 10 farad capacitor, but as we kept on building the system and adding, the 10 farad became a necessity. So that's, as you can see, it's built right in front of everything else,
Looks quite cool. I would never say it's an afterthought. It just blends in so well with everything.
Yeah, well, we've tried as best.
Looks like
as we
it
can.
belongs there.
100%.
Oh, and then, so you mentioned that everything's got its own pair of channels.
That's correct. If you have a look at this, so we've got 4 buttons on the dash panel.
Yeah.
We've obviously custom made that panel to house 4 of those switches. That 4 switches will allow you to play the subwoofers separately. You can play either the 2 at the back or the 1 in front, or you can play them all together. And then the amplifiers for the mids and tweeters. So that would run each amplifier. There's 3 amplifiers that's behind the seat here, and then 1 in the boot. Those buttons controls all of that. So if you're feeling like a big bass day, then you can put all the buttons on. If you want something that's a little bit more toned down, but more relaxed, then you can obviously play just 1 woofer and 1 set of speakers if you want.
So how does the bass get from the boot in? Because it's a sedan and I don't see any opening here.
Okay, so basically what we've done is, as you know, with sedans, to get the bass up into the vehicle is a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
What we've done is we've cut the parcel shelf, and in order to allow the bass to come through, I've designed a custom-made press grill where the bass would pass through
Into the cabin
and come into
from
the vehicle.
boot.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that's a big pair of speakers, eh? That's a very big pair of speakers. Okay, so it fires half
It
in
fires
there
up
and
into
then
the-
loads
that's
here.
correct.
Gee,
So-
and then you said that the amplifier is hidden there?
That's correct. So there's one amplifier in here. This 500 runs the woofer up front.
Okay.
The 215s here runs off the BD 1500. You've got another amplifier that runs the center set of mids and the outer top tweeters. And we also have a built-in charger on the side here. So what basically happens is this cover clips off. As you can see, you have a plug point that plugs directly into the wall. And, it's an intelligent charger, so it charges. If you're not utilizing the vehicle, you can just leave it on charge. Once it's fully charged, it just switches off, and ever so often then it just tops up when it requires it to.
Very nice. How did you fit this big ass box into the boot? Because damn, this looks like...
The challenge initially was when we built the enclosure with the woofers in it, we couldn't fit it in. So we had to take the enclosure without the woofers, fit it into the vehicle, then try and get the woofers to fit in afterwards. Once the enclosure was in, everything else got built around it, you understand? It wasn't a situation where we could build in different stages. We had to put the enclosure in first, and then everything else followed thereafter. It comes out in pieces, but a fair amount of work went into. And remember, if you looked at the back seat and the boot, there's a crazy amount of detail at the back. So, there was limited space in the back to try and do that. So we added as much pieces as possible to make it look as intricate as the front does,
But even like the strum, I mean, the strum has all these ridges. I mean, there's one there that flows there into another ridge, and then the way it fits together there's that panel, that panel, that panel. I mean, this could have been one, but by doing it like this, it adds so much character and detail to it.
And
I mean, look at those contours.
And the nice thing about it also is that all these things fit together with dowels. So they all have one place, you just clip it in. There isn't a screw that holds any of this thing together, other than this cover that gets screwed in before the amplifier, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the stuff is just dowels that screws in, that clips in.
And keeps it all together.
And keeps it together, that's great.
That's pretty mean. Ebie, no offense to the owner, but man, you gotta be special to want this much speakers in a car. What's the reason behind the owner wanting so much out of such a small car?
Well, initially, there wasn't even a choice of vehicle. He had come to South Africa, he buys and sells cars. He's a fairly successful businessman in Botswana. And this vehicle was purchased from a deceased estate. It's got 41,000 original mileage. And, he started out small, let's do something that sounds pretty decent, looks good. The initial idea was it needed to look aesthetically pleasing, but not over the top. And strangely enough, he had left the vehicle here, we started building the system, and the longer it stood, the more he added, he just kept adding and adding and adding. The ultimate was that his vehicle be the loudest one in Botswana. And this is probably where we landed up at,
6-8-inch mids and 6 tweeters is no joke.
Definitely.
And it's not just any mids, it's they're stupid loud.
That's
those
correct.
tweeters, gosh, if ever there's a speaker I hate, it's those tweeters, because they chew from across the road.
They're very bright. Well, if the general idea was park the vehicle off, have it idling, drop the windows, open the doors,
And bang.
and stand 500 meters away and enjoy the music,
This car can do that, eh?
100%. I can play it for you, you can have a listen.
Let's have a listen, yeah.